Welcome to Beyond the Pain, a place for parents of estranged adult children to find peace and healing. In each episode, I hope to share stories to help you during some of your darkest hours, to bring this out of the shadows and stop being ashamed, then to build you up and inspire you to love yourselves even more. So this is my first podcast. I really started this podcast so that so people wouldn't think they're alone in being estranged from their adult children. It seems to be a definite issue in the world. Some things there's issues for, sometimes they just don't make any sense. Sometimes the children just cut off the adults in their life, their parents. I'm sure some of them think they're doing it for a valid reason, and some of them probably are, but in the same breath, some of them are not. So really started this out of my own experience about 3.5 years ago now. My adult son decided that, I didn't know why it happened exactly. I had suspicions why it happened, but those wouldn't come into any kind of validation until later, or really wouldn't find out for 2.5 years. Started because my son and I and my current wife had an issue with him and his wife. Some things were misunderstood and taken out of context, and things happened, a lot of things were said, and it just seemed to, at the time, it seemed to be completely out of nowhere, make absolutely no sense, and it was treated like a loss, which is what it was. There were several months there that I just thought that I was the worst parent in the world, that what did I do? How did I let this happen? I had nobody except for my immediate family, and really my wife and my other two kids, because they were, one was the youngest of our children. Our youngest daughter was there when things blew up, and the oldest one was not living with us, but in subsequent conversations, and things that happened, she was made aware by us how things happened, and we were just devastated. We had no idea what caused it. We had no idea how to fix it. It was awful. And this was Labor Day 2016, that area. So it was just a little before the holidays. I tried to let it go and say, okay, well, everybody just needs to breathe. Everybody needs to take a step back and see what happens. So, a week or two goes by, and I, and else it's all a little fuzzy now, but a couple weeks go by, and I try to reach out and really didn't get very far. A few more weeks go by, and we really have heard nothing. And at this point, my son had a 2-year-old, well, coming up to be 2-year-old, so my granddaughter, and we were completely cut off from them. They lived about an hour away from us, so not too far, but not like we could just, drop by necessarily, and in an area where we would have no other reason to go, but to go there. So that made it difficult. So holidays are coming up. Thanksgiving's coming up. I try really hard, to put something together that we can all talk and hammer this out. And, it just didn't happen for various reasons. And so we went into the Thanksgiving holiday completely cut off and estranged. It was hard. It was really, really hard. To go back a little bit, when my son was growing up, we had a tense relationship, and he had his issues, like nothing serious, but just defiant issues. So, when he finally grew up, got married, started his own family, um, things got good. I mean, they got really good. And this estrangement just came completely out of nowhere, as far as I could tell, because there was no communication. Um, Again, explanation will come later, but you know, it came out of nowhere. So I worked on it, and I tried to get us together before the holidays, before like Thanksgiving started. We had something arranged. We were all going to talk, and another breakdown happened, and it was hard. So that didn't happen. I thought surely by Christmas things would be better. We could have a chance to talk and work some stuff out, and it just never happened. I went, and I think it was January of that year, I decided, listen, I am having trouble. I am having some real trouble with my emotions, with caring about anything that happened, or was happening at the moment. I didn't care about paying my bills. I didn't care about working so much. I mean, it was, and I'm not that kind of person, so basically I'm a happy person. I get stressed from time to time, but I think that's pretty normal. But basically I'm a happy person, and I just knew I was not, I wasn't happy. I was anything but happy. So I decided to go to my doctor and talk to them about some antidepressant medication. I didn't want to be on some hard, heavy medicine that was going to make me just more lethargic than I already was. That wasn't the answer. I just needed a little boost, and I didn't want to be on it forever. I talked to him about it and explained everything, and so we started out with some real minor medication. He gave me some bigger stuff in case I had a really bad day, or really needed it, which I never really did. But taking the lower dose stuff really, really helped me get my head on a little straighter. So I was able to function. I still wasn't happy, obviously. I'm missing my granddaughter, I'm missing my son, missing my daughter-in-law, because we had become very close, I felt like, and I just didn't know what was going on. So I did all that, and it helped. It really helped me, level out a little bit. But again, I still wasn't happy. So I've gone through the gamut. I've gone through, like I said earlier, oh my God, what did I do? What a horrible parent I am. How could I let this happen? All of that, to being angry, both at, my son, his wife, back at me, the world, you know, I just didn't understand. I just didn't understand. And that was probably a good 6 months into June of the following year. So, I still was just having trouble dealing with it, as most of us do. But I muddled through. I worked. I tried to put on the happy face. I tried, like most estranged parents, you know, when people would ask about your kids, just give them a fluff answer. There were a few people that knew. There were a few closer friends at work that kind of knew what was going on. So, they helped. And I just muddled through. I also sought out counseling, which also helped tremendously. I don't think I could have made it through without that counseling. So I highly recommend, if you can find somebody that can be recommended, that's preferable, somebody that someone knows or can be recommended by your doctor or anyone, really. Because there's so many people out there that just don't know what they're doing. I was fortunate. I was helped to see that, regardless of the cause and whether it was, my fault, their fault, both of our faults, anything that, I didn't deserve that, just being cut off completely. And I, I was not a bad person, So I did that. And it was probably coming up to the holidays the next year, started getting tough again. Made it through everything else, birthday, Father's Day, my son's birthday, all of that. And coming up to the holidays, it got rough again. It didn't help. We had other issues. My wife's mother was in a nursing home, and she eventually passed away, from complications with strokes and stuff. So during that whole time, she was in a nursing home, and, I'm trying to support my wife, and she's trying to support me, and it was just very hard. So probably coming up to the holidays the next year, I started looking for other ways to help me, other ways to get through it. Surely I'm not the only person out there that is going through this. Surely that there's some sort of support groups that aren't going to cost a lot of money, that people are there just like me, wondering what the hell happened. And I started doing some Facebook group searching, found a few groups, eventually found one that I settled into. And when I realized in this particular group there were thousands of members from all walks of life, from any part of the world, not just the country, but I mean there were people from everywhere. I then realized, oh my God, you are by far not alone. There are many, many people, and so many of the stories sounded very familiar. So many of them sounded heart-wrenching. So many of them sounded a whole lot worse than mine, with nasty exchanges and sometimes physical altercations and, just all kinds of stuff. So, I began to realize that while, yes, I wasn't alone by any stretch, I had it easier than some in a way, because sometimes no communication is worse in a way than some communication. But for me, I think it was easier in a way that I was getting the silent treatment, rather than some of this really nasty, and I can't even begin to tell you the things that I read. And it helped me, but it just made me realize what a huge problem it is. So, I was in that group for a couple of months, probably 3 or 4 months actually. And then some things happened in that group and I wasn't real thrilled with. And myself and a couple of other estranged parents formed our own group. We didn't like the direction that was, and we formed our own group. And that has been very, I think the word is cathartic, to be giving back, to other people that I know are hurting and I know are going through some serious stuff. So it has been a great thing. Now, a year ago, today is Memorial Day when I'm recording this, in 2020. So actually 1 year ago today, my son attended my youngest daughter's high school graduation. And from that point forward, we started talking, started delving into some of the things that happened. And, you know, come to find out, and he has made no bones about that he regrets handling things the way he did. So, come to find out that there was just something in him that was triggered from a childhood memory that I had no clue about, but that he thought I did. And this is all very in a nutshell, but there's a lot more to it. But that's kind of what started the silent treatment, and then we could just never connect. He felt that he was protecting his daughter from a similar hurt that he felt in his childhood, and I had no idea. I had no idea that that had happened. There was third party things involved, and doesn't make it go away for him, doesn't make it any better, that it had actually happened. But I just didn't know. Like I said, he thought I knew. I didn't know. So the whole big thing, I mean, that's not what initially started it, but what started it triggered that, and triggered that feeling, and then it just went to hell from there. So I will say that now we're in a pretty good place. Things aren't perfect. I don't think they'll ever be perfect. Not that they were ever perfect to begin with, but we're in a pretty good place. We have our ups and downs, but I don't think that's anything to do with the estrangement. I think that's just life. So there is always that knee-jerk reaction. I can't say that, or I could lose them all again. Even though he's promised and, told me, both of them, him and his wife, that they won't let that happen again. It's too important. I have grown so close to my granddaughter. I love her to bits, and I don't think that they would let that happen. But it's still that knee-jerk reaction. So it's been a crazy few years. And then of course we have other kids. We have our youngest daughter is 20. She's in college now. She's still living with us. She's in college. She's making her way in the world, and probably next year probably in January is her plan, actually. She will move out and either find somewhere around here, or she may move to another friend's house out of state. Who knows? She's got a couple of different options, which is great. But, when this happened, she's just turning 16, so it was a real hard time to keep paying attention to her and giving her things that she needed when I couldn't give myself the things I needed. Thank God my wife was there and she could help me through, and she's my rock. But it was tough. So now I'm here, 2020. Like I said, Memorial Day, May 25th, 2020. Ready to start this podcast. This will obviously be aired a little later, but I'm ready to get this thing going to try to help some of you out there that might be feeling some of this stuff, that think you're alone. I want to bring this out of the shadows. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, granted, some people may have done something that had their children cut them off or whatever. I think for the most part, there's a lot of third-party involvement, whether it's exes or in-laws or whatever, and, and misunderstandings. And I think there's just so many factors. So I wanted to start this, to get this out of the shadows, like I said, to make sure that people know that they're not the terrible parent that they think they are just because your child decided to cut you out of their life. I mean, we've even had parents who admit they did some pretty awful things when their kids were young, and that they worked past it, they thought they were in a good place, and then this happens. So I don't have all the answers. I am by far not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but just a guy that has been there, done that, and I want to help people, and I thought this is a good way to do it. We can keep our anonymity in a way and be able to still put some things out there that people need to be aware. People need to know. There's a lot of people guiding our kids in the wrong direction, telling them to cut us out of their lives. And sometimes I think they just don't have the maturity yet to make any other decisions. If somebody's egging you on to do a certain thing, then you're likely to do that. So, and it's not in all cases. I'm not saying that every daughter-in-law or mother-in-law or son-in-law or whatever or family member is trying to sway your kids. I'm not saying that at all. I just know it happens sometimes. So I honestly, I thought that was the case with my case, but I have come to learn that it's not. So, I said a lot of things about my daughter-in-law initially that were not fair, were not true. I just didn't know. So what transpired made sense to me at the time, but now knowing some of the other stuff, it wasn't true at all. So anyway, so that's my story. That's my first story. I'm putting it out there. I hope to do at least one a week to help, like I said, get this out there, get it out of the shadows, get people talking about it, get families back together, if at all humanly possible. And it's not always possible, and if that's not the case, then to let you know that you are not alone, and there's many of us out there. You just have to find your tribe. So I have found mine, and fortunately my son and I are in a good place now, but taking my experience and trying to help others, as well as some of my new friends from my groups that I hope to be hearing from soon, so you don't just have to listen to me. But I'll share some stories here and there and see what comes out of this, and I hope all good things. So anybody that, you're welcome to shoot me an email. The email address is beyondthepainpodcast@gmail.com. And remember, till next time, allow yourself to live beyond the pain.